What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. Today, we are doing the conference championships. So, the AFC versus NFC championships are here officially, and according to my last video, I got the response I was kind of looking for. I didn't purposely do this to be like, oh wow, like the number one season to make it. I just genuinely believe that this could be the championships here. Like these conference championships or the championship games, I think are very possibly down to these teams. So again, just looking at these, this is going to be one pain in the ass game to describe how it's going to be. So got to keep our eyes open on that one. But this game, we're going to talk about it first. Oof. So Cleveland versus Indianapolis in Indianapolis. So very interesting because these two teams, I'm pretty sure, are both not very highly favored to go to the Super Bowl. And they're both teams that I have a lot of faith in. Now, I didn't choose them to go this far because of the faith I had. I did not think Cleveland was a Super Bowl contender, really. I thought they were definitely a playoff-worthy team, but I didn't think they'd make it to the championship. I guess it just fell that way. And then Indianapolis, that's a team that I have a huge amount of faith in. I think Philip Rivers is going to have a huge bounce back year. And I don't think people give Philip Rivers enough credit. He had no offensive line. And yes, for the record, I slipped up a little bit on the Chargers vid. They did sign Trey Turner, and they signed another guard who's solid. So at least they have a little bit better of an offensive line, but it's still pretty damn garbage. And it definitely doesn't replace the fact that they have literally a garbage quarterback, regardless of their options. Because Tyrod's getting old and hasn't had enough experience anymore. He's been out of the starting job for, I think, 2 or 3 years. So it's not like he's going to be nice and fresh the way he was in Buffalo, where he was pretty solid. And then Justin Herbert's he's not ready, number one. And even if he was ready, he's not good. So, again, it's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is, guys. So I don't really have any faith in them. But we're focusing today on the two championship games. The AFC, let's talk about them first. From the AFC North, we have Cleveland Browns versus the AFC South in Indianapolis Colts. So this is an interesting game, and I think home field advantage is a key factor here that we have to factor in. Because it's not like it's two open fields. It's a dome versus Cleveland's open air. And it's not like if Indianapolis was open, if like the stadium was open, then it would be much more easy for Cleveland to deal with because Indianapolis ain't that far from Ohio. So I know because I drove through friggin' Indiana to get to Ohio from other states as well, but whatever. So it's like it's a big deal because they're in the dome. So we have to keep that in mind. Now let's look at how these teams compare against each other, unit versus unit. So Indianapolis's offense is obviously going against the Cleveland defense, right? And the line for Indianapolis is stellar, like the best in the NFL. But Cleveland's defensive line is arguably the best in the NFL as well, guys. We don't even know if they have Jadeveon Clowney yet. That's the thing. They gave the highest bid to Jadeveon Clowney, and he didn't accept it. So I don't think he's going to end up going there. But it's still a possibility. And if that happens, oh my God. Cleveland's going to have a higher record than that. But for right now, we know that Myles Garrett's going to be there. Pretty sure Olivier Vernon's going to be there. And they also have other weapons around that team that are able to make a very solid defensive front. So it's not like they have... Cleveland probably doesn't have the best defensive line, but they probably have the best pass rushing defensive edges in the NFL. And that's a very crucial thing. But it's kind of mitigated by the fact that you have Quentin Nelson there. You have Costanzo there. I think he's just signed a 2-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. And then you also have Braden Smith. And you have a lot of weapons on the offensive line that is awesome. And I think it's good enough to mitigate the defensive line of Cleveland. So I think that's a very, very, very key factor. The battle in the trenches is going to be a pretty much equivalent battle. And I think that means Indianapolis is going to win on that defensive front, defensive versus offensive front type of scale. Looking at what that means is that Phillip Rivers, he's not going to have as much time as he normally does because of the fact that you have Myles Garrett coming at you, Olivier Vernon coming at you. But at the same time, he still has enough time. It's not going to be rushed. So he can't just sit back there all day, but he also can't. I mean, he also can just wait and be able to let routes develop well enough. He just can't sit on his ass. So, but what that also means is that the run game is going to be able to work. Because if you are not going to be able to... I mean, here's another key thing, guys. The linebackers for Cleveland, I don't believe are that good. So you have guys like Taki and Mack Wilson there. Two very young players. And there's a third guy, I can't really remember his name, but obviously he's nobody of significance. Losing Joe Sherbert was kind of a big deal. And that is what's going to be a huge hindrance. Yes, they have Larry Ogunjobi and they have Sheldon Richardson stuffing the middle. But with the fact that Indianapolis can run more of his own scheme because, Jonathan Taylor is more of a pound the ground type of guy, but Marlon Mack is more of a zone runner. So you guys have heard me multiple times say that the defensive line isn't that big of a factor in zone run schemes because of the fact that it's so spread out that defenders aren't used, unless they're super athletic like Nick Bosa, they are not going to make that big of a difference. So you have Myles Garrett, who's extremely athletic, so he can make a difference. But the linebackers are the biggest difference maker, and Taki and Mack Wilson are not ready to face a possible incoming type of lineman like a Braden Smith or any of the guys on the offensive line for that matter, like Quentin Nelson or Costanzo or Kelly. Like they're not ready for it. And I think that what that means is that Indianapolis is going to be able to run the ball. Now let's look at the secondary. You have Denzel Ward. You have Greedy Williams. You have guys in that secondary who can make a difference. But they're all really young. So I got to be a little bit careful about this. You have two-man corners, right? You have Denzel Ward and you have Greedy. Then you have back in that backfield, you have a couple safeties that are rotating around. Like you have Carl Joseph there. You do have, I'm pretty sure they still have Demarius Randall. I'm pretty sure they still have him. But even if they did or didn't, it's not going to make that big of a difference. They have Grant Delpit as well. And the thing is, what I'm worried about is the fact that these guys are very inexperienced. They do not have that much experience in the playoffs. And because of that, they're going up against a far more experienced T.Y. Hilton. And then they're going up against guys like Jack Doyle, which again, linebackers come into factor here. Jack Doyle can destroy the linebacking core. But Michael Pittman is going to be a huge asset here because of the fact that he is going to either draw safeties away from T.Y. Hilton or is going to be one-on-one when he has a height advantage of at least 3 inches over Greedy Williams. And as a person who watched Michael Pittman in person, he is an absolute monster at the contested catch game. So it is going to be actually a very hard game, and it's going to be a very good game, offense versus defense here. And Phillip Rivers, we've seen what he can do. He can put balls in places most quarterbacks can't. Now, he had an off year last year, but I mean, again, look at the offensive line he had, and now look at the offensive line he has. But let's flip it around. Let's look at the other way. So Cleveland Browns versus Indianapolis. Let's look at the battle in the trenches. So you have possibly, one of the best tackle duos. I know Jack Conklin's gotten some hate as well, because he has regressed a little bit, but he's still a solid tackle. Like, he's definitely up there with, like, top 10, top 15, top 20. Like, he's definitely worth the starting tackle position in the NFL. Definitely an upgrade over, like, Chris Hubbard, who is not that bad. But then you also have Jedrick Wills on the other side. And they're, like, the offensive line for Cleveland isn't that bad at all. Like, they're a pretty damn good offensive line unit. But then you look at Indianapolis. You have Kamoko Toure. You have Ben Benogu from TCU, who people argued was better than LJ Collier, who went before him in the first round. He's still developing. They have Justin Houston, which I forgot in my last video. They have DeForest Buckner. Like, they have a damn solid unit, guys. And we have to think about that because the question is Jedrick Wills going to be able to hold up to an experienced pass rusher, or is Jack Conklin going to be able to hold up to an experienced pass rusher in Justin Houston? Remember, Justin Houston almost set the record for sacks like 3 or 4 years ago. Like, he still has that in him. And I hear people like Max Kellerman talk about this all the time. Guys who once had extreme elevated heights and maybe they are not as good consistently can still reach those heights. That's what makes them an amazing player. So similar to Tom Brady, how he can like reach those heights even though he's regressed a little bit, even though he's kind of taken a little too far. That's for another video. I think that Justin Houston can easily reach those heights again. He is an absolute freak of nature. Kansas City should never let him go. It is really unfortunate to see him let him go. Even though, yes, they won the Super Bowl, but, I mean, you're paying Frank Clark what you probably would have paid Justin Houston, and Frank Clark really ain't shit. And then, again, Kamoko Toure is pretty baller. He's a very low-key player, but he's very solid. Very solid. And then, again, Ben Banogu in there. Linebackers is where they're struggling as well. That's a key thing. They're struggling at linebacker as well. You have, Philip Walker, but they have Darius Leonard in there. So they have, compared to Cleveland, they have one star player in the linebacking core. That's very key. So it's a huge asset. Not to mention the fact that they have Bobby Okereke out of Stanford, who I just looked it up. I just remembered seeing him on a video where he was in the the all-star under 25 team in the NFL. He was that good, and I really didn't see him that much last year, mainly because it was kind of boring to watch Indianapolis games. Because, I mean, Jacoby Brissett is really, I like him. I think he's underrated, but, let's be honest, he's no person to light it up and be box office. But, yeah, I just realized they have Bobby Okereke as well. Very, very, very talented linebacker out of Stanford. I liked him coming out of the draft, so I'm very happy to see the fact that he was able to increase his success in the NFL over college. So, again, they have now two weapons in that linebacking core. Again, I think his name's Philip Walker. No, Philip Walker is the quarterback. Whatever Walker guy they have. I think Anthony Walker at middle linebacker. He's not bad either. He's super young. He's 24. So, again, Indianapolis has a linebacker advantage over Cleveland. And then in the secondary, they have guys like Rock Ya-Sin, Pierre Desir, guys who aren't very talented, but in the safety core, they have Malik Hooker, and that's a huge asset for them, because when I'm about to talk about the wide receivers / tight ends versus the secondary, it's going to be a very key factor. So we have to look at Cleveland's wide receiver core, because again, this is very key here. Their wide receiver core is arguably the best in the NFL. You have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry as your two head honchos there, guys. Those are the two biggies. They have Austin Hooper. They have Antonio Callaway. They have guys there. But those three guys are the big heads of the team. They also have David Njoku from the U. But still, David Njoku / Austin Hooper are going to be able to be mitigated by the fact that Anthony Walker is not Bobby Okereke and Darius Leonard are going to be able to eliminate the linebackers / Jarvis Landry in the short field presence. I think they're that good of type of players. And Rock Ya-Sin and Pierre Desir are not good enough to take care of Odell Beckham Jr. So that's going to be a key thing. If they make Odell Beckham Jr. run long routes, this game is over for Cleveland, because Malik Hooker will immediately take that out. But if they keep Odell Beckham Jr. in a short to medium range game, this game might favor Cleveland on the offensive side. But here's the X factor that I haven't talked about. I haven't talked about the run game, so we'll talk about that really quickly. The run game is solid, really damn solid. I love Nick Chubb and I love Kareem Hunt. I think they're going to be able to run the ball and keep the clock moving. But there's something that I've realized. Baker Mayfield has an attitude on him, guys. He's a winner, but he's always not come clutch in these big situations. And I'll explain why. The thing I'm thinking about is Oklahoma versus Georgia in the playoffs before Georgia went to the Natty. And Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield made quite a few mistakes in that game that cost his team the victory. And it was a high-scoring game, and Baker did very well. But there's points where you cannot make mistakes in a team like Indianapolis that's going to chunk the ball on the ground as well. So both these teams have amazing run attacks. But again, the linebackers for Indy are going to be able to cancel that out a lot better, not perfectly, a lot better than Cleveland to Indy. Regardless, I think that Indianapolis is going to win this game. They're going to the Super Bowl because of the fact that Baker Mayfield's going to get too cocky. I know this video is running long, guys. We're going to go to the other game really quickly, but Baker Mayfield's attitude and his cockiness is going to get the best of him in this game, and he's going to want to show out, and he's going to throw into too tight of windows where Malik Hooker and Darius Leonard are going to, and Bobby Okereke are going to make him pay. And that is going to be the biggest problem for the Cleveland Browns, and that is why they can't get over the hump until Baker gets over his damn attitude. So, sorry, Cleveland. The next game, my most fun game that I'm going to probably commentate on in this entire series, Arizona versus Chicago. So we have to look at this, guys. Chicago, let's look at the offense versus the defense for Chicago versus Arizona. So quarterback, you have Nick Foles, who is very clutch in the playoffs. So he can lead teams very well. This is a better team than the team he led before. So he does have quite a bit of foundation, and he can reach these heights because of the fact he has beaten Tom Brady before. He beat Tom Brady again. And so the offensive line for Chicago is middle of the pack. Long retired, and that's a big big hit. But they do have James Daniels in there, who I thought was an amazing pick, I think last year or 2 years ago. Awesome pick out of Iowa, and that was super solid, but there's still a vacancy on that line. And Bobby Massey's still there, and they still have some solid talent, but it's not the best. So I think that's kind of a common thread between these two teams. But still, Arizona's pass rush is absolutely insane. You have Chandler Jones there, and I just got a message saying, oh, you forgot about Devon Kennard. And Devon Kennard, or Devin Kennard, I think his name's Devon Kennard, he's a solid gadget weapon. He's very similar to a Van Noy. And I think that's another key weapon in this. And they have guys in the middle of that defensive line like Leki Fotu and Rashard Lawrence, who are both rookies. So they have some talent there. And they have, I keep forgetting the guy's name out of BC, but I think his name's Zach Allen. Yeah. And he showed out, and he wasn't that bad last year. Yes, he wasn't the greatest guy, but he still has room to improve, and he was hinted at being the next J.J. Watt. So he has that talent inside of him, and I think that is something that we cannot ignore. And oh wait, there's someone they drafted this year at number 8 overall. His name's Isaiah Simmons, and he is a safety, cornerback, linebacker, pass rusher. Whoa. And nickel corner. So, I mean, he is going to be a huge player this game. And so I think that it's kind of equivalent in the trenches because in the inside for both Chicago and Arizona, it's not the greatest, and they're all really young. You have Cody Whitehair, I still believe, there as well. But on the outside, where you have Chandler Jones, Isaiah Simmons, Zach Allen, you have guys who can kind of hit each other. So I think the advantage is kind of in Arizona's way. Linebackers and secondary versus Chicago's skill positions. Wide receivers, the most deep in the NFL for Chicago. They have guys they have a guy named Wims, who I love. I love Wims out of Georgia. 6'6" guy, super fast. Who showed out in the preseason a couple years ago. And I think he's 5th or 6th on the depth chart, man. He is a baller. And that's kind of a huge thing here. Anthony Miller as well. And I mean, the problem is that Arizona has a damn good secondary. Their weakness is at, I think it's strong safety, because I think Buddha is at free safety. It's one of the two. Regardless, Buddha's still a great coverage type of player, so we can't take that away from Buddha. And I know they have Deontay Thompson, who is pretty damn solid, and they have a guy named Jalen Thompson as well, who started last year. But Deontay Thompson, I think, will get the nod this year. It's too bad Jamal Adams doesn't come here. That would be insane. But, again, Allen Robinson can be dealt with by Patrick Peterson. And then Anthony Miller can be taken out by Byron Murphy. I think that's the two key guys. Tight end, Chicago just drafted Cole Kmet. And Jordan Hicks could deal with that 10 times out of 10, guys. The linebacking core for Arizona is absolutely freaking insane. Isaiah Simmons, you have Jordan Hicks, you have Devon Kennard there. You have all these type of linebackers. Who's the guy out of Temple? I always say his name and I always forget it right now. But regardless, they have so much talent in linebacking core. Yes, they're not top 5 linebackers in the NFL, but they're still damn good. So I think Chicago's offense might be mitigated by Arizona's defense here, guys. The running backs are not that good for Chicago. Like, Tariq Cohen once was great for 1 year, and now it's kind of ugh. And David Montgomery, I wish he hit like full strides, but in this NFL, like, running backs rarely develop into great players. Most of the time, if you're not great from the start, you're not really going to do too much. Again, we see all these running backs on rookie contracts doing well. That's for a reason, and I don't really see David Johnson doing that. I mean, not David Johnson, David Montgomery. So I'm really giving the advantage, offense versus defense, to Arizona. But let's look at the other side. Offensively, so this is going to be the big thing. Arizona offensive line. You have DJ Humphries. You have Marcus Gilbert. You have Josh Jones. Those are like the three big dudes on that team. They also have guys like Justin Pugh there, and I'm still forgetting the last guy's name, and J.R. Sweezy. So they have a complete offensive line. And no, again, they're not top 5 type of talents. But Josh Jones was an amazing pickup. I think that is a huge asset to this team. And I think that's something that they really need to press while going forward. They need to stick him to guard until he continues to develop, and either Marcus Gilbert or DJ Humphries wants to move positions. I still think that's one of the best picks in the entire draft. I had him as my number 25 player, and they got him down in the 3rd round, so hats off to them. And but here's the problem. You're going up against Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks. Like, those two on their own, I think they still have Eddie Goldman as well. Those two on their own give big problems for Arizona. So right now, the trench battle is kind of in Chicago's favor on the pass rush. Not the run stuff, the pass rush. Actually, I mean, I would honestly give it for the run stuff as well. So Chicago has the advantage in the trenches. But we also have to look at Chicago's linebacking core, which is solid as well. They have Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan. They have guys there, okay? I'm not sure if Leonard Floyd's still there. He probably isn't. He might be. I'm not sure. But they have a solid pass rush. They have solid run stuff. And they have a very good secondary. You have Kyle Fuller. You have, I keep forgetting his name. And he was one of my favorites. It's not Jeff Gladney. Not Jalen Johnson. It might be, yeah, I think it's Jalen Johnson out of Utah. Loved him. He was like my number 3 corner in the draft. He was arguably number 2. I almost put him above C.J. Henderson. But he's an absolute beast. Chicago got him in the 2nd round as well. And they have Eddie Jackson back there. So he's kind of patrolling the rear. So, I mean, Chicago has a damn good team. But we have to see how it matches up against the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals have Kyler Murray. Top 5 quarterback in the NFL for me. He is accurate and very elusive. We've seen him in college run like 50 yards on one play to complete like a 10-yard pass. So, I mean, the pass rush is definitely in the favor of Chicago, but having a mobile quarterback is kind of a key for mitigating how effective that pass rush is. And Cliff Kingsbury is a very unconventional coach. So you have the zone schemes, but Chicago's linebackers are pretty solid. So I don't really think that that's going to be much of an effect. And we have to see how the corners versus the wide receivers go. You have Larry there. You have Hakeem Butler. I'm obviously not saying the big name yet. You have Christian Kirk. You have Andy Isabella. You have DeAndre Hopkins. And then you have Max Williams. So Max Williams, he's taken out by the linebackers. You have Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to be taken out by either a linebacker or some corner. You have Christian Kirk. He can be taken out by, I'd probably put him on Jalen Johnson. And then you have Hakeem Butler, who he's really not going to be needed to be taken out by anybody. But then you pretty much have Kyle Fuller versus DeAndre Hopkins. And here's my thing, guys. I think that Kyle Fuller cannot handle DeAndre Hopkins. And I don't think many people do think that. And that's going to be a huge thing. They're going to have to either double team DeAndre, which means that Christian Kirk or Andy Isabella or Hakeem Butler are going to be wide open. And I think that's going to be the key for this game. Now, Chicago, they can have some more success running the ball, but they don't have good running backs. They have good receiving backs, and the linebackers for Arizona are solid. So, believe it or not, guys, we are in Chicago. So it is Soldier Field in the winter. So it is questionable but I'm choosing Arizona Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl. You guys may say that Kyler Murray will have trouble and this team will have trouble not being in their dome and being in an outside environment like Soldier Field in the winter. This is true, except it is in like February time, so or like late January, so it's not going to be like December death time. Yes, there's going to be wind. Yes, it's going to be cold. But we have to remember, Kyler Murray, who is the most influential player on this entire team, is going to be making this offense run because the running game is not going to be that great due to Chicago's defense. He played at Oklahoma. Like, if there's nothing like wind in Oklahoma, so I think he can deal with the wind in Soldier Field, and the cold is something that can be overcome, and I think that Arizona will be able to do it, and therefore they are going to get the victory. So from arguably, I'm pretty sure they're the worst in their division to the best in the NFC in 1 year. And yes, this is possible. It's happened multiple times. In Arizona, I think the key is Nuke Hopkins drawing enough attention or not enough attention. That's going to make the big X factor in this game. And I think that the line is good enough, and Kyler Murray's scrambling ability will pick up first downs when needed, and Nuke Hopkins will pick up the big plays when needed, versus Nick Foles, who kind of has to reach that MVP mentality every single game, which is very hard to do. So I think that Arizona will go to the Super Bowl. Let me know what you guys think. Indianapolis versus Arizona. I love this. It is something that nobody's probably predicting, or neither of these teams probably going to the Super Bowl. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the far side.